Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are on 129, isn't it?
Yes.
So in the previous verse we saw that Atman becomes the knower by wearing the ornaments of knowingness. Pure consciousness becomes when it starts knowing itself as other. That other is also it only. So it is taking that what you call the duality that comes about today, like how I explained in the meditation. The consciousness enters in the Agya Chakra, the pure consciousness becomes the Purusha and Prakriti. So it itself becomes the two. Then that Prakriti itself goes through space, air, fire, water, earth at the various chakras. But Purusha doesn't change. Purusha knows that all this change is taking place. Purusha knows that Prakriti is not other than itself. All that process is taking place. And here it says, well, pure consciousness, sentiency and knowingness. So the joys and sorrows of life have their basis on not on the sentiency but on the knowingness. Where does knowingness take place now? Is it in the Purusha or is it in the Prakriti?
Now is in Prakriti.
Huh?
Prakriti now, as in Purusha knows everything.
Purusha knows everything, but where is knowingness taking place? It is taking place in Prakriti, because it is in the Prakriti that the I thought and the that thought comes about, where the knowledge starts taking place in the form of thoughts. Purusha does not require thoughts to know. So that Purusha expressing through Prakriti as, we can say, as the I thought and the that thought. So that is the knowingness. If this is so, why did Paramatma create this triputi of knower known knowledge at all? Why create the mess and then try to clear it? तया परमात्मदीचे शेष ना काही तया सुखास आणि होय येवडी कास कासिली जेणे. The Supreme Self could not bear its oneness of absolute being and thus desired to become many. This thought is reflected in the Upanishads.
With as if.
And also we saw this happen in the Shiva Shakti Samavesh, where the Parama Shiva, wanting or desiring to know itself, expressed as Shiva and Shakti. The singular existence of truth is such that other than the truth nothing else is, being ekam eva advitiyam, one without a second. He was all alone without company. Bhagavan Krishna says, those who reach the ultimate goal of the imperishable truth never come back. That is my supreme abode. A great saint commented on this thus, do you know why they all do not come back? Because if they do, they will discourage others from going there, because it is so boring, bored of this solitary existence. The Paramatma thought, let me be many. This was his sankalpa. Therefore, Hanumanji does not want to become one with the Lord. He says, I want to continue. He knows. Hanumanji knows. When Lord asked him, what is your relationship to me? He says, as Atma, you and me are not separate. Then ask me a boon. He says, I want to live, I want to be here on the earth as long as your name is being taken. See? Because what will he do after becoming one? But important is that when we are living here, we must live with joy, not as a crying creature, continuously complaining. Aitreya Upanishad says, Saha Ikshata, he contemplated and created. The Taittiriya Upanishad says, Sa Kamayataha, he desired. The Panchadashi describes two types of creation, the Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. The former is born out of plenitude, the latter out of need. The former is born out of joy and freedom, the latter is latter out of need and bondage. That is the Jiva. The Paramatman associated with the Ichha Shakti is called Shiva. The power or Shakti is not a bondage for the Paramatma. This is coming again from the Shiva Shakti Samavesh. That the potentiality is no longer a burden on the Shiva. For us, our potentiality, what is our potentiality? Seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, speaking, moving, all this becomes a burden. Because all these stimuli that are coming through our senses and through our various organs of action, oh my God, how much more I have to do, how much more I have to see. We get tired every day and go to sleep. The Lord doesn't get tired. Ishvara doesn't get tired, or Shiva doesn't get tired.
I thought our potentiality is being mother, sister, daughter, all that. That's not.
No, our potentiality is our mind. Lord's potentiality is his Shakti. What is your Shakti? Mind. That mind, that Shakti called mind, then goes through the manifestation and unmanifestation. Manifestation is dream and waking, unmanifestation is deep sleep. And then in waking, that 1/3 of the potential is expressing as life, which we have taken to be real. कितना लंबा घुसे हुए हम ये देखो ना. Don't take only the waking, you have to take the whole thing. So whole potential is the mind. This power or Shakti, this potentiality for the Lord, his power is not a bondage. For us, our power is a bondage. Because little bit power and control comes, we think of ourselves as Tismar Khan, we want to control other people, we want to dictate to other people, we want to show that don't mess around with me. Immediately the expression of that power starts and we become intoxicated by that power. Intoxication of that power means we have become enslaved by that power. Whereas, look at the prime ministers, look at the presidents. But Lord, who is the supreme power, most powerful, he doesn't get intoxicated by that power. He remains equanimous with respect to that power. Having said that, the Sadvastu with reference to the Ichha Shakti manifests as Shiva. The further steps of creation are described. सर्वज्ञ तेची परी चिन्मात्राचे तोंडावरी परी ते आन धरी घरी जाणीजेना. He says, the omniscience of the Supreme Self is due to the pure consciousness that is essentially inherent in it. In the pure consciousness or Shuddha Chaitanya, one of the inherent potentialities called Jnana Shakti is invoked. So, within that one reality alone, the Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, all are in that only. Where are they? Is it in the Purusha or it is in the Prakriti? It is in the... No. Yes, it is in the Shakti, but that Shakti, has it come from outside somewhere? No, it has come from the Purusha only. So these three Shaktis express out of Prakriti, but that Prakriti itself is inherent within the Purusha, the conscious principle. According to the Pratyabhijna Shastra, refer to the chapter on Shiva Shakti Samavesh, the Sadvastu, when referred to with reference to the infinite inherent potentiality, is called Chit. The reality, when referred to with reference to the infinite inherent potentiality, is called Chit. The potentiality is called Ananta, infinite, or Ananda Shakti. This Chit, when referred to with reference to one of its many powers, namely Ichcha Shakti, is called Shiva. The same Paramatma, when referred to with reference to Kriya Shakti, is called Sadvidya. Of these three manifestations of the same principles, OV 129 stated that through the power of desire, the Sadvastu manifested as Shiva. The Sadvastu manifested as Shiva. The Shiva, invoking the second potentiality called Jnana Shakti, becomes Ishvara, who is Sarva Shaktiman, Sarvajna, etc. The Jnana Shakti, the unique omniscience, is found nowhere other than in the pure consciousness. So with respect to that one reality, that Sadvastu, with respect to its own potentiality, is called consciousness. That consciousness with respect to Ichcha Shakti is called Shiva. That pure consciousness with respect to Ichcha Shakti is called Shiva. With respect to Jnana Shakti, it is called Ishvara. And that same pure consciousness with respect to Kriya Shakti is called Sadvidya.
Sadvidya is Prakriti. Potential.
They are essentially one.
Yeah.
But just like we are called by different names with respect to different things, and where are these three potentialities? They are within the pure consciousness. But when it becomes aware of its own potential, it takes that particular the name. So with respect to Ichcha Shakti, that same pure consciousness is called Shiva. With respect to Jnana Shakti, it is called, that same pure consciousness is called Ishvara. This, with respect to Kriya Shakti, the same pure consciousness is called as Sadvidya.
In Lalita Sahasranama, there's Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Swarupini.
It is, she's known that way.
Oh, but that's also consciousness only. It's not actually Prakriti.
No, according to us, consciousness is an aspect. Pure consciousness is different. Pure consciousness reflected in Ichha Shakti is called Shiva. Pure consciousness with respect to or reflecting in Jnana Shakti is called Ishvara. Pure consciousness reflecting in Kriya Shakti is called Sadvidya.
Yeah,
so that potential.
All three Swarupini means consciousness, pure consciousness, isn't it?
No, Swarupini means is of the nature of. Swarup is your nature. So she's of the nature of Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti and Jnana Shakti.
Yes.
She's of the nature of.
Okay. Oh, okay.
She's of the nature of. The Jnana Shakti, the unique omniscience, is found nowhere other than in the pure consciousness. How much potentiality exists in the ocean for wave formation? How many types of waves are formed? To these questions, the only answer can be infinite. In the same way, the Sadvastu potentialities are infinite and they are all inherent in it. Nothing comes from outside. The Moola Adhisthana, the primary substratum, itself takes on the garb of original Ishwaratva by the invocation of the Jnana Shakti, which cannot exist apart from the pure existence or Satvastu. Yes, in that sense, yes, the three Shaktis essentially are nothing but that pure consciousness. Because the Shaktis will not come from outside somewhere. But by nature, the Shaktis are those which come and go. They are not constant by nature. Nothing comes from outside. The Moola Adhisthana, the primary substratum, itself takes on the garb of original Ishwaratva by the invocation of the Jnana Shakti, which cannot exist apart from the pure existence or Sadvastu. When the Jnana Shakti is manifested, the waking and the dream planes of consciousness arise. And when the Jnana Shakti is absorbed, the deep sleep plane of consciousness comes. Thus has creation started. We take creation only as the outside world. So just now when you asked me where is this Shakti, I said it is the mind. The potentiality is the mind. And the manifestation of the mind is waking, dream and manifestation and unmanifestation. Manifestation is the waking and the dream, which is due to the Jnana Shakti, and the manifestation of absence of this, absence of this Jnana Shakti is the deep sleep state. This is happening at the totality level. The Jnana Shakti gets absorbed. So what is this Jnana Shakti? In this context, what is this Jnana Shakti? I and that. Where I and that is available, because the question was why the Triputi is coming and going, why he needs to have the Triputi. Remember the question? If this is so, why did Paramatma create the Triputi of knower known knowledge at all? Why create the mess and then try to clear it? So that has happened because of the Jnana Shakti, then the what you call the knowledge comes about. So in the waking and the dream, we see the play of aham vritti and idam vritti. But in the deep sleep, the aham vritti is absorbed along with the idam. The further process of relative creation is described. Eva jnana jnanamithi tehi pava tehi तेहि फांकत से दिठी दृश्यपणे ये भेटी आपुलिया. The knowledge and the ignorance, both are thoughts, are illumined by this pure consciousness. Thus, when the self takes the position of a seer and sees the object, he comes to embrace himself. Thus, when the self takes the position of a seer and sees the object, he comes to embrace himself. See how beautifully it is put. It is that one who is expressing as the two. So it is the pure consciousness itself which is expressing as the I thought and the that thought, and the I thought then embraces the that thoughts because he doesn't see the that as other than himself. And this is what we are going through. But if we go through with this awareness, it will be a different type of living. So really speaking, there is no other. Really speaking, there is no other. From whose point? From pure consciousness's point of view. From individual point of view, there is the other. And and that other, we have not recognized. I am interacting with you, you are interacting with your husbands or your children. You see them as other, therefore you want to possess. But that feeling of love and feeling of possession and feeling of embracing that I want this object, I want that car, I want this, I want that, I want a good, everything. The reason that we go out is only because this feeling is there, that from higher point, that you are loving yourself only. But individual doesn't know that. He wants or loves out of need, out of wanting to be complete. But from the pure consciousness point of view, when he is looking at the whole thing, it is just, it cannot be any other way. In this way, whenever there is a transaction of knowledge and ignorance, that is, whenever knowledge and ignorance embrace each other and function together, the drashta is born, the seer is born. So now here understand what is knowledge and ignorance. What is knowledge and ignorance?
I and that.
Correct. I is the knowledge, that is the ignorance, meaning inert. In the example of the snake and the rope, the jnanam that there is something, this jnana lakshanam is covered by the ajnana lakshanam of I do not know what it is. Again, when one thinks that perhaps it is a snake, it is jnanam existing under the cover embrace of ignorance. Perhaps it is a snake is a knowledge expressing under the influence of ignorance. And the same existence which is appearing to be other than I starts coming towards me as object of knowledge. And the same existence which is other than me. which is appearing to be other than I.
In Power of Now, when he comes out, when he looks at a pen also, he feels that it is nothing but I.
So this thought came somewhere. So then this whole creation we have created out of our own mind to remind ourselves of who we are. Isn't it? Isn't it? And it's not that we have created it, it's just happening. That's the Leela going on. That's the game that is going on. If you can stand apart and see the whole thing, then your mind, it is not that you, the consciousness who needs this, but at the level of mind, the whole game is going on in order to educate the mind to come back to its original position. That's all. In pure consciousness, there are no thoughts. But it is abode, the womb of knowledge, and ignorance which is nothing but thoughts. So pure consciousness is chit ghana, is fully saturated with knowledge, and ignorance which is nothing but thoughts. So all thoughts is equal to ignorance.
Takes you away.
But at this stage, there is no vritti jnanam. That is, it is jnanam without a knower, jnata. Now, the pure consciousness expands as the knower and known. From the point of initiation, the bindu, the object known, is cognized in the form of nad, and from there the different kalas or forms are manifested. In this way, the same consciousness manifests as seer and seen, and the whole plurality is experienced. When we come out of the deep sleep plane of consciousness, we become conscious of our being. This is the creation of the mind. The dichotomy of the subject-object is formed. Dvaita takes shape in the form of the individuality, the seer, the experiencer that I am, and the object seen. It is this separation of the pure self into the two that causes tension and exhaustion, because the most natural state of equilibrium is when this difference between the knower and known is bridged. The true joy is only when the duality of the knower, duality of Chit, the knower, and the Sat, the known, is totally removed. Only then does Ananda manifest. It is the same truth that expresses as the seen object and the seer relative subject. In this way, self sees itself.
Oh, this is the first time Satchitananda has got a different meaning.
We did this somewhere else also.
At that time, I was not aware of it.
Okay. Same thought had come before. That when Sat is always their existence, Chit is knowledge. When you know in ourselves, when we know that we exist, when I know that I exist, that very moment the joy starts expressing. Now here, it is not about I exist. It is about I know that I exist, that is okay, but everything is also existing. Now they are taking this existence as the principle, not each individual. Rather than focusing on every object, take existence as principle and see that that existence and this consciousness is one and the same thing. So I exist and everything else exists. How can there be two existences? It has to be one. The moment this knowledge clicks inside, that very moment Ananda begins. That very moment Ananda की स्फुरना होती है. So where is Satchit Anand? It is only in our mind. It is a way of explanation, and he has given that explanation before, that Satchitanand words are used only so that our mind does not get caught up in Asat, Achit and Dukh.
We did that. But
We did that.
Chit, the knower. Chit is the knower and Sat is the known. I didn't think of it in that angle at all. Knower, known. And once that is bridged, you have the Ananda. So simple. That it comes in that just that three.
In three, yes. Because all objects exist.
Yeah.
All objects, but there is one step in between. All objects exist, I also exist. So can there be one existence here and one existence there? There can be only one existence. And it's an intuitive thing. When you keep contemplating, then it will click that, there cannot be two existences. That means it is the same existence. When this knowledge comes about, that there is only one existence. Now, knowledge means chit. So when you come to know that there is only one existence appearing as two, the Ananda begins. How the Supreme Self sees itself as the objective world and fulfills itself as the seer, and how all this transaction is contained within the pure self is now explained. Wow! You want to formulate that thought by Swamiji, it's amazing, isn't it? To put it in those words. How the Supreme Self sees itself as the objective world and fulfills itself as the seer, and how all this transaction is contained within the pure self. So the whole thing is going on within one only. Te drishya motake dekhe apana swaye drishtratve tokhe te chidithiche nimukhe mazi date. He, the Paramatma, sees the objective world, drishya, and becomes happy on seeing it. All these countless transactions take place in the pure self. The Supreme Self, who has become the drishya pradartha, that means the seen, just for the fun of it, he becomes very happy that he is seeing something different every time. This same thought came in Shiva Shakti Samavesh, where the Shakti itself became the many, and then the Shiva is looking and becomes very happy, and again goes back into meditation. All this transaction of the appearance of the objective world is in endless variety, is going on in the same container, the consciousness. Is going on in the same container, the consciousness, wherein at some point subject-object relationship is taking place. All the waves are taking place in the same container called the ocean. All the thoughts are taking place in the same container called the mind. And what is mind? Consciousness with thoughts is called mind. So are the thoughts outside consciousness? No. It's how you look at what take you have towards everything. We sometimes get caught up in only one way of looking, but we should not form a opinion that this is the only way. No. In the ocean of pure consciousness, the potentiality of wave can manifest at any point, at any time, like the jackfruit tree can produce the fruit at any point in its total body. The subject-object relationship can manifest at any point in the consciousness, experience the world and go back. It is as if the waves come out of the mouth of the ocean and go back. In this way, the Supreme Self itself is the objective world and fulfills itself as the seer, just like a man or woman finding contentment in becoming father or mother. So also the pure consciousness finds contentment in seeing all the drishya, that means seen, right within itself and nowhere else. However, in all these transactions of relative expressions of seer and seen, knower, known, etc., the oneness of the pure self is never lost. This whole thing, explanation that is taking, what is coming to me is, at this moment, our attention is outside all the time. We are not aware that all that is being experienced, the experiencer and experienced is taking place in the mind only. The seer and the seen is in the mind only. Because what is mind? I thought and that thought. So I is a continuously changing and taking the position as the seer. The moment he becomes the seer, that becomes the seen. If he becomes the knower, that becomes the known. If he becomes the experiencer, that becomes the experienced. But where is this play going on? It is going on in the mind. And the moment we will, if we can come to a position to see this play going on, then we are the witness. First stage. Till we recognize, or it reveals to us that, again, this contemplation has to go on. Where is the mind? Mind is nothing but the consciousness. Mind is nothing but the consciousness. And if there are infinite number of waves possible, that means infinite number of possibilities are there within the mind. But we want to live only like this or like that, or in our fixated ways of living, of experience. But potentiality is infinite. We believe in our daily life, if I do this, then this will be the result. If I eat, my stomach will be satisfied. If I speak, you will hear. This is very gross way, very solidified way of thinking. But when you see Mahatmas, they interact at a very different level. How does Satya Sai Baba know what is in which all the letters that are coming to him? How merely without touching, without anything, a person comes in front of him and gets healed? How does it happen? How does he manifest at different points on the earth at the same time, giving darshan to so many people? How does that happen? Instead of asking how does that happen, we must see that it is the potentiality can express, the manifestation can happen of I thought and that thought anywhere, anytime. Just like a wave can manifest in the ocean anywhere at any time, because the potential is there in the ocean. So similarly, the potential within the consciousness is there to manifest as I thought and that thought. because I thought and that thought is there, it doesn't mean there are two. It's all happening in the consciousness only. And that consciousness is the ocean of consciousness. It's infinite in its nature. In that, waves of thoughts are coming and going. In that consciousness, the experiencer, experienced are coming and going. Seer and seen are coming and going. Knower and known are coming and going. So we get lost in this seer and seen by becoming the seer. We get lost in the knower and known by becoming the knower. We get lost in the experience experienced by becoming the experiencer. Because of our identification with the seen, we become the seer. Because of our identification with the experienced, we become the experiencer. But if we take a position that we see that this game is going on, then what will happen?
Alam and Krita.
But what will happen?
Everything is niyam.
The phenomena will still continue. The Mahatmas function this way. So eyes are open, they are still seeing, but no seer is born. There is no identification, so no seer. So that is what is creationless creation. Seeing less seeing, experience less experience, knowing less knowing. This is what it is. So without precipitating a personality, without getting, and when does the personality precipitate? When you get identified, because the pure consciousness is the same, which is expressing as I and that. Now that pure consciousness is the conscious, conscious is the I. The knower is the I. The known is the inert, its existence. So that reality, which is existence, consciousness and bliss, expresses as consciousness as I and expresses as existence as the seen or as the known. When this I gets identified, it becomes the knower or the seen. But if it continues to take the position that okay, this is going on, but it cannot be only with one. You have to see the whole phenomena that it's taking on. Just like a dreamer and the dream world, dreamer is the I and the dream world is the that. It's a phenomena, that's why you give it up. But we are so insistent in the waking that it is real. When this angle of approach is there, I think the realization will dawn upon us that everything is that pure self and that I am. This is a experienceless experience. Then we will not run away from the world, then we will not run towards the world. Then we allow everything to unfold as it is. Because it's the Leela. That's when a person becomes, for people who watch him, he becomes an instrument in the hands of the Lord. He doesn't say, I am an instrument in the hands of the Lord. Well, he can say or he cannot say, that's up to him. Hanumanji said it, isn't it? Because he was asked. How this oneness is ever maintained is stated in the next OV. Even when the transaction of give and take occurs, the thread of oneness never breaks, just as the mirror seemingly creates a second face without losing oneness of the face. We'll look at this in our next class. And to explain this point, now few examples are taken. That what mirror, here example is, mirror reflects without becoming many. Water becomes wave without becoming many. Gold becomes ornament without becoming many. Similarly, this pure consciousness, what you call, expresses as I and that without having become I and that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Harihi Om.